Is that legal?
I will make it legal.
Where do you get this bureaucratic bull?
You have all the character references of a politician.
Intelligence has nothing to do with politics.
This president is not above the law.
If the dirty air don't get you, the politicians will.
The last remnants of the old republic have been swept away.
These orders have forced us to declare independence.
I don't watch TV. It's a cultural wasteland filled with inappropriate metaphors and an unrealistic portrayal of life created by the liberal media elite.
You know, it's funny, I was thinking about what you said. The preeminent truth of our age is that you cannot fight the system. But if, as you say, the truth is fluid, that the truth is subjective, then maybe you can fight the system. As long as just one person refuses to be broken, refuses to bow down.
But can you win?
Every time I say no.
With the shield and sword, we're protecting you from the horde. This is Grounds of Expediency Live, and I am your host, Tim. I am the culture war realist. I'm a rational individualist. I'm the no-compromise anti-communist. I'm the hierarchy dominator. I cite history with validity. I've got the hot takes for the bot fakes, and most importantly, I am never a victim. We're going to have a great show. We're going to talk about the Second Amendment, what it really means. I think both sides are a little bit confused there. We're going to clear that up. We're going to have the Matt Walsh debate and decide whether or not his takes are correct on culture. And we may disagree on that. We'll have to find out. Let's see who we have with us tonight so far. And by the way, guys, share the stream out there on every platform. This channel is necessarily separate from OAP for obvious reasons. So we need the reach. Thanks to everyone who subbed today. I noticed the sub count went up by about 4. Share it out there, all platforms. Tell your friends. Great conversation here every time, if I do say so myself. Dar Spampton, always spamming social media with our links. Thank you very much. Blake St. Clair, our longtime mod and friend of the channel in the house. Melissa Lord, first ever member of the channel in the house. We've got Jackson Agaden with us tonight. I know a few other people had said they're going to show up, so share it out there, guys. And go back if you ever have time, if you're driving around, and listen to the old streams. They go back 2.5 years now. Late 2020 is when we started, so definitely do that. But without further ado, I want to go ahead and bring on in my guest, my co-host. He is the reality check technician. He's the medicine man of the tribe. He is the Grand High Priest, Holy Order of the Jab.
We don't serve their kind here.
Greg.
Hello. Greetings.
Good evening. You were all black there for a minute. I thought it was June 2020 for a couple of seconds. And you were a big company's Facebook page. Yeah, there you go. More than a month early. Yeah. What is that? June 16th, I think. Is that the day that
the 19th?
Okay. The day we celebrate Juneteenth. Can't wait. You know, I'm going to have a barbecue and all that stuff. So.
Oh yeah, me too.
Anyway, well, it's been a while. I went back and looked, and we actually did more of these than I thought. I think we've done 2 in the calendar year already.
Not enough.
We did
Not
2 in
enough. Not
January.
enough.
No, I agree. It's just finding the time, and Wednesday nights seem to be that night where, we can do different streams, whether it's Off the Treks or Grounds of Expediency live or wrestling with the other guys. And I think this will have to be the night that we do the Master and Commander discussion, because it's too hard to find other nights. And I was thinking, once we start doing the member streams, it needs to be on Wednesdays before the regular stream, and not go long. It's like, hey, 30, 45 minutes, get some people on here and see what they have to say. See what they have to say. We got the hands up.
Interesting.
Absolutely. We got the hands up in the chat. We got E. Clay Thomason, member of the channel, in the house. We've got Tehalim29 up in here. Thanks for swinging by. Hit the like, guys, if you're in here and you haven't done so yet. So before we get into some of these main topics, I want to let's talk a little bit about entertainment. And, we'll definitely touch on this Friday night as well, but Disney subscriptions going down, and there's Big Old Mets, top tier member of the channel, in the house too. So here's the thing, let me talk about this, because right now people are making decisions they have to make. The economy isn't good, and it's not like inflation not good, it's recession not good. Companies are laying people off. So subscriptions are going down, but check this out. Stuff isn't selling in the food realm, like protein isn't selling. What does that lead you to conclude? People are fucking buying their kids cereal and shit like that. And I chuckle like that, and I shouldn't, but I'm just laughing at it because it's so comical that we're in the state that we're in a country like the United States, where I guarantee people are buying their kids cereal to eat for dinner because they can't afford the beef, the chicken, any of that shit, even to make hamburger helper out of. They're making the hamburger helper and probably putting, like hot sauce and shit in it. So protein is not selling, guys.
Or they're just cutting back the amount. So, if the hamburger helper calls for a pound, you put half a pound in.
Sure.
Add a few more macaroni noodles in there to thicken it, to spread it out a little bit further, because that's cheap.
My point is either if a family's completely cutting back to zero or cutting back how much, the point is that if they're doing that, what they eat, their sustenance, then don't you think on discretionary spend like entertainment, that they're like, oh, hell no, I cancel that and I'll use my sister's account, stuff like that to save money. So that's why you see a lot of that happening. And plus, people are probably tired of it. It's like, okay, we've had this, we don't have any kids to use it as a babysitting device anymore. We've watched all the old stuff. The nostalgia is gone, and we're going to cancel. It could just be frugality. Even somebody who makes a decent salary is struggling right now, because what if you bought a car 3 years ago when the economy was in a much different state, right? If you bought the car at that point, well, now here you are in 2023, you've gone through inflation. Now we're pretty much in a recession. So you're having to cut back on stuff to make sure you can make your house payment, make your car payment, have enough food to eat, all that type stuff. So it doesn't explain anything. It doesn't mean that, hey, we're winning a woke war. It means that people are behaving as they would in a recessionary environment. I'll let you talk about it. I've been blabbing for the first 10 minutes.
Well, if you actually read the article, which so many people seem to be unable to do, we're talking about that Variety article that posted, like, even in the headline, they hedge And they're like, but they decrease their losses. So what they're doing is they're spending less capital on their content. They've lowered their cost of doing business while maintaining basically stagnant sales. Because if you read the things again, they lost a lot in that Disney hotspot or whatever thing that they run in India from losing the crickets. But in North America, they lost 300,000 subscribers to Disney Plus, but then picked up 400,000 subscribers on ESPN Plus. Tell me ESPN Plus isn't fucking woke? Bullshit. It's one of the most woke networks in existence on this planet. I would say that they're more fucking woke than MSNBC.
And you know what that stands for, right? I've told you before.
What, ESPN?
Uh-huh.
I don't recall.
It's every sport politicized non-objectively.
There you go.
Timon's in the house, and there's a guy right there that can tell you. And by the way, I'll let you keep talking on this, but who ever would have thought, let's say a decade ago, that we'd be saying that the country of El Salvador has a based leader? Whoever thought that would have been a statement that would be made? Holy
Well, the whole
cow,
rest of
that
the
guy.
continent is just going extreme left.
Yes.
Sometimes I swear that we're actually living out the decade that takes place before Atlas Shrugged.
Well, and here's the thing: Central America can never get on the same page. It seems like when this country starts swinging right, this other country over here, the Sandinistas take over. It's like, guys, all get together and be right wing. And
they might say the same thing about fucking U.S. and Canada. I mean, as bad as the United States is, Canada's a fucking joke.
Oh, definitely. But that country swings because in the 80s, you had the death squads, if you'll remember. They were running the right-wing death squads. They were running around doing that. Well, then there was a reaction to that. And then for many years, the FMLN had a foothold, and then they ruled. Well, now people got tired of that. Now this guy that's in there now that's doing all this stuff with the gang members and everything else, he's like cleaning house, and he's like trolling our president and our country with hey, look what we're doing here. So it's pretty remarkable.
Well, the thing is when you start that pendulum swing and you start from a very high position on one side, you end up on a high position on the other side.
Right.
And it doesn't moderate for quite some time. And then other things kind of accelerate that. Usually things like death squads and political violence tend to cause long lasting animosity between the sides. It's not like, oh, we lost an election, let's win the next one. It's like, you killed you killed my brother, you killed my father, prepare to die. It lasts longer in those kind of scenarios. But back to the Disney Plus thing. Losing 300,000 subscribers on Disney Plus is like a speck, not even a speck of those subscribers. So to say that it's because they're gone woke, what an oversimplification and what an overstatement that is.
Mm-hmm.
I know we all want to put some notches in our belt for wins, but that's not, I'm sorry, not
well,
that's not it.
And that's what you have to ask yourself.
That's a fake victory.
Yeah, it's false hope more than it's a victory. It's perpetuating the false hope in the interest of keeping your subscriber base coincidence there, your subscriber base engaged, right? That's what it is.
Exactly.
But here's the thing. Here's what I like to do, not to make it too personal, but I like to keep our member and subscriber base engaged by telling the truth, right? And speaking about uncomfortable truths. That's what we do around here. Even if it goes against the grain, and maybe especially if it goes against the grain. That's how I like to keep everyone engaged. And I think people have appreciated that, because I've had people, send me DMs over the last couple of years like, hey, thanks for I don't know, keeping it real, and thanks for, telling the truth. And I'm not talking hundreds of messages, but I'll get them, and every one I get like that, I appreciate, because we're not out here. And I talked about this like 3 weeks ago. We're not here trying to troll people. We're doing it because we really do have an interest in sharing the truth. And there is, unlike the clip that we watched at the beginning, there is an objective truth, guys. And it's not a 1984 fluid thing. There really is an objective truth, and that's what we seek here on these collection of shows and channels, regardless of what the topic is.
Yeah, and sometimes like the actual truth, the hard truth, is stuff we don't want to hear, and I think it's important. I think it's extremely important that people hear that hard truth, because it sets people's mind. It creates a mindset that can catalyst what we're doing into actual substantive victories, versus people getting complacent and going like, well, we showed them, so let's go get the Bud Light now, or let's watch the newest thing on Disney Plus now because it's okay because we showed them. And it's like, we didn't. And like, you need to stay vigilant and understand that like we didn't get here in the last 5 years. It's been a very long, protracted battle over decades to change the culture. And it's not just race swapping and gender swapping. I mean, I know some channels are just exclusively upset about that stuff. But when you talk about things like the culture wars, there's a lot of damage that Hollywood purveys with the culture. It starts in the schools, but then it's reinforced through Hollywood. Things like collectivism, lies about the wonders of things like communism, even, or how terrible capitalism is. And it's subtle at first, just portray every businessman as the guy from Wall Street, Gecko, right? Gordon Gecko. Everybody who runs a company is Gordon Gecko, or some other evil capitalist person who just hurts people for pleasure, or just is just simply greedy. Like it's everything in the culture. And like you look at over time the damage that it's done, it's created a culture of, particularly with the younger generations, of something that's 10 times more evil than greed, and that's envy. And it's a culture of victimhood.
Yep.
And,
again,
it starts in schools, but it's reinforced through Hollywood over and over and over again. And if we, yes, the race swap stuff is annoying and bad. The gender swap stuff is annoying and bad, but that's not doing nearly as much damage as the stuff about when a TV show always portrays a particular type of character in a way, like there's like, I'll give Star Trek season 2, Picard season 2, right? They have this Hispanic character, and she's, in the past, in our current time, I guess, 2024, I think is when it takes place, the show. But she's just she runs a free clinic, and she just helps poor immigrants. And like all the immigrants are just all Mother Teresa incarnate, walking across the border with nothing but the most wonderful intentions. And like, they're not going to show her be like, oh yeah, she fixed up a guy who then just turned around and, shot somebody in an armed robbery or anything like that. It always has to be portrayed a certain way. And they're always certain characters or character groups got to be like, again, Mother Teresa, and you can't show the other side at all. And it's through those lies of omission. Like, if people follow Tucker Carlson, he kind of touched on this a little bit with the media. It's like, it isn't that they're necessarily outright lying to you, but they're just not telling you the full story either. And it's deliberate, and it's pervasive, and it affects how people, their views as they grow up, as it's reinforced again through schools and then through Hollywood or, music or other various art forms, but probably video games even as well. Now, like if you don't think video game companies have gone fucking woke, please.
Well, that ties into this. There is no such thing as subjective truth. There is like unknown truth, like what is the truth, and that's
correct.
Part of our quest to seek the truth, right? But it is correct that there isn't a subjective one. So we're not arrogant enough to say that we know the truth of everything, but we are wise enough to say we're not going to make our own truth, your truth, my truth. We're going to seek what the truth is. And quite frankly, in some cases, we may never find it. So that ties into what you just said, right? Where they don't tell you the whole story so that you then can't make a decision about what the truth is. And most people, let's be honest, they're going to accept what they see on the media in front of them and not go out and do further research, right? Like woke television shows and movies, they'll have this message, right? Yeah. To them, like, wow, look at that. Like, that is so brilliant. And, we're going to go over this later, like this commercial, the musket thing in the office and all that. So, that's an example right there. It's not giving you the full context. And most brainlets out there, they're not going to do their own research and say, well, why doesn't that make sense? Or they're not even going to internally, right, question that and say, let me reason through this. And why is that not like a good, why is that not a good analogy for what the intentions of the Second Amendment were? But that's why we're here. People like us that actually do think, and I would hope encourage others to think, to guide you guys through that.
Yeah. Another good example, and this one is really kind of pissed me off is, everybody's, seal clapping for Orville season 3. And it's like, they have an episode right in there where it's a fucking, it's in your face transgender episode. Mm-hmm. And what they do is they use the bullshit technology to just say like, oh, if you just want to be a female, it's an outpatient surgery and boom, you change. And then if you want to change back, you can just change back. But like, that's not even presenting the reality of the situation with the transgender issue that we're currently, debating in our culture and our politics. But they conveniently leave all that stuff out and only present the favorable things to their things. It's like, oh yeah, it's just, just a little quick snip, and like you're on your feet and walking around, and you have full functionality of a woman now.
Well, and here's the thing: a lot of the people touting that show as the real Star Trek and all this stuff, that's one of their causes, right? It's not all the other stuff that we've gone into about recognizing subtle, collectivist messages and all this media. But that's actually one of the things these people talk about. Oh, pronouns in bio. But guess what? An episode like that, it's okay because this is the real continuation of Star Trek.
And that's a danger, I think, especially with like in our circles when we talk about like the culture war issues and things like that. It's just like, oh, well, as long as they don't do it, as long as there isn't a woman lead or they change a race of a character, then it's fine.
Yeah,
it's good. Another great example, like the Chris Pratt Amazon movie, where they like pull people. I don't remember the name of it, but like they pull people from the past to go fight in a war in the future, which on its face is just like the worst kind of bastardization of any time travel thing is that you could possibly do. Like, how would that, of course, not change how the future goes by transporting these people to go get killed in the future? But anyway, the whole end of the movie is basically is like, Pratt's stupid kids, of course, figure it all out, and it was global warming that caused it. Thought out the creatures in Siberia, and that's what caused the whole alien war to begin with. And fuck off.
Like that's based on a book series, I believe.
All right, well, whatever it's based on, and like it's a bad book then. Like, I mean, that's a dumb. But I mean, like there's you don't think there's a message there,
right? But guess what? It's got Chris Pratt in it.
Yeah, it's got Chris Pratt, so it's automatically okay because, he says he's a Christian and he, quotes some Bible verses and stuff like that. And the other side hates him a whole lot, so then he must be good.
Yeah. And then,
Right? Because,
the guy that
if the other side hates him, then they're automatically our champion now, which is again, the worst way to pick people.
Then there's the guy that played Shazam, right? He's a good guy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I forget his name. But
Zachary Levi. That's his name. He's another good guy. So, yeah, to your point, we've got to quit. We've got to quit making these associations with, what is a good guy and an ally. And
we got to stop lionizing individuals for what they believe and start lionizing the beliefs that we feel should be lionized. So don't just worship Chris Pratt because Chris Pratt happened to say something that's good, because chances are he'll walk it back 30 minutes later. Or that's not the point. It's we don't, ideas matter. People don't, leaders don't. It's especially ones that are just, just because the other side hates their guts a whole lot.
Right.
I mean, it's a bad way to pick politicians. It's a bad way to pick idols and people to look up to.
We've said this many times. The enemy of my enemy is not always my friend.
Exactly.
Or ally.
Yeah, we covered it extensively in regards to the Harry Potter author, right?
Yeah.
J.K. Rowling.
Yep. There's a couple out, Bill Maher, people like that.
Oh, let me tell you about Bill Maher. Since we're on grounds for expediency, if you don't recognize the pattern with Bill Maher by now, open your eyes. Here's what Bill Maher does every election cycle. Elections take place. If Republicans win, then he spends the next 2 years or 4 years, depending on whether you're talking a presidential or congressional election cycle, badgering the Republicans over everything they do. If the Democrats win, he tries to play the rational, pragmatist middle roader right up until about 5 months before the actual election, and then he just goes back to endorsing and rooting for every single Democrat. He does this every election cycle. And yes, some of the things he says on occasion are correct, but he's not an ally. And at the end of the day, he ain't voting Republican regardless. If he votes at all, he sorry, he's never going to vote for Republican.
Can I say something else about him though?
Sure.
I think he's probably bagged Ann Coulter and a few of the other chicks on the other side. If you've seen some of the photos and videos of them together.
Yeah, they seem very chummy.
Yeah.
I don't know if if I were him, I wouldn't brag about bagging Ann Coulter. She can be funny in the just deliberately provocative sense, but she's all over the board too. She's just got a hate boner for Trump now, and she wrote a book a couple of years ago that he was going to be the savior of the world.
Oh yeah.
She turned pretty harsh because
really?
Honestly, she backed him primarily over his immigration policy, and he didn't live up to his campaign promises there at all. At all. And that's just an objective truth. You can like Trump, you can have supported him in 2020, and you can support him in 2024. But the fact of the matter is, he didn't come even within the vicinity of thinking about living up to his campaign promise in regard to immigration.
Yeah, really, the only book of hers that I ever liked was Treason, where she goes over, she vindicates McCarthy and talks about the Goldbergs. Lots of footnotes in that, that cites everything. That was a pretty good one, but beyond that, it got really cartoony and comical with all of her books and stuff.
Her writing style is not great. It's not very like I don't like I've never enjoyed reading her stuff, even her columns. They're just kind of like, well, this.
I don't remember.
But again, I mean, she'll
seeing
say something
columns.
pretty inflammatory, get a lot of attention. But
Mhm,
like,
mhm.
you know, I think Candace Owens has now taken her like role over as being like the provocateur chick on the right.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, because to your point, she's all over the place, and they want to have someone a little more consistent. Because Coulter, going back to when would you say she rose to prominence after 9/11? Probably, at that maybe a little bit
Before that, I think.
Yeah, so back then it was like the agenda is 100% back whoever the Republican president is, right? Whoever, if it's
Mhm.
Bush, and then to your point, be kind of like a troll in the media and make statements like she makes and stuff. But I laughed out loud a few times at some of the lines, like in treason. But it also, again, it was
Oh
from
yeah,
a
she's got some
historical
funny zingers from
perspective.
time to time.
Oh
Like, I
yeah,
think I
yeah,
follow
yeah.
her on Twitter just to catch some of them. Like,
Mhm.
but like I don't view her as somebody that's like representative necessarily of my political ideology as a whole.
Right, right. Anyway, how we got on that topic?
I don't know. Start talking
Yeah.
culture shit.
Yeah, exactly. And that may be a good segue, because first thing I want to talk about is this out of nowhere last week, this flame back up, and suddenly like Quartering decides to, make a tweet about he didn't make it about Matt Walsh, but Walsh did make all these comments back in October, and suddenly I think you can probably guess that Quartering was talking about him. But believe it or not, Bounding Into Comics is really the only site that put all this together from what happened last week. Let me find the original. Here it is, May 1st. May Day, the communist holiday, right? The right's weird obsession with disavowing video games, anime, and social media is why they will never appeal to most of Gen Z. The base is literally dying off, and most of the voices in the community are actively refusing recruits. Matt's not the only guy saying it. There was some other moron, so he's calling him a moron there, other moron, who tweeted, "Anime is for cheese pizza eaters," or something the other day. So that's what kicked it off.
Mm-hmm.
And then this video again is from October. There's another one I have that was from shortly after that. And then let's see here. This is Bounding dragged this one out from 2018 from Walsh, a tweet. Video games are a sacred cow because our country is filled with adults who are obsessed with them. That's why we all pretend insanely that there's nothing wrong with or disturbing about a child spending all day killing people in a virtual world. Yeah, we'll watch these actual videos later here, but yeah, I mean, it's before we get into what Walsh is saying, it's weird that Jeremy from the Quartering decided one day on May 1st to just make that tweet. Like, I don't know what sparked it. I was looking on Twitter and on the
I
internet.
think it was somebody else randomly quote tweeted it, and then he picked it up, and it was like, you look at the date, it was like from 2018 was the Twitter post that they were citing from Matt Walsh. But I mean, I will say this, like, because there's the expectation here that I'm just going to defend everything that Matt Walsh says. That, like, I disagree with him like pretty vehemently on most of what he said there. But I think my issue is like, oh, this is why we're losing the culture war. No, it's not.
Well, here's the thing. Jeremy from the Quartering, like, and John makes this point in this article. He's kind of like Mar. He's all over the place. Like, he caught himself, like, if you scroll down here, he called it infighting, and then I think someone said, well, wait, how is it infighting when you just said that you're not here it is. I'm not a conservative. And he's like, then he calls it something else like adjacent infighting or something like that. Okay, it's fair to point out it's not technically infighting, but we do fight for about 85% of the same things in adjacent fighting. So I mean, come on. He wants to have his cake and eat it too. I mean, he is on the right. I'm sorry. He is conservative. However you want to define that. You can't like fight for culture and have certain political views that are obvious in all of your videos and tweets and then say you're not conservative or on the right. You just can't.
Yeah, well, I think, people are just going to like, oh, they're going to mince the difference between like libertarian and conservative. And it's like, okay,
it's all semantics.
Like, if you're actually voting for the libertarian candidate in any election, you're fucking retarded.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I mean, like, that's the worst vote you could possibly fucking make. Just save the time, save the poll workers some effort, and maybe we can get some more ballots counted quicker. But like, there's no worse way to throw away your vote than voting for the big L libertarian candidate. Now, libertarian as an ideal, I don't have a problem with most of it. I think some of it's like, obsessed with stupid issues that don't really matter. And they only seem to be interested in winning national elections instead of fighting anything on a local level whatsoever, which means that they're just not serious. But like this idea that like you have to be like, oh, I'm not conservative. Don't lump me in with a conservative. Well, okay, but like just because like, okay, you have 20 people and they're all on the right. We'll just say on the right. And it's just like one person says one thing doesn't mean the other 19 automatically back it because they're on the same side. And so like when you have a person like a Candace Owens or a Matt Walsh or a Michael Knowles or drawing a blank on his name, the frog gay guy.
Who?
The one who's going to turn all the, talking about the turning the frogs gay.
Oh, Alex Jones from
like,
ATG podcast.
Right. Or Andrew Tate, or if you want to lump him right or whatever. Like just because somebody on the right says something doesn't mean it represents all of the right. And like,
right.
That this is the reason why, are you really watching the Matt Walsh show? Like, so how is it influencing you if you're not even watching it?
Right.
And the other part of it is like, the reason we're losing the culture war, because remember, like let's go through a little trip in time. The right ignored the culture war for decades.
Mm-hmm.
Like anybody who was trying to run on any sort of family values platform, like they got annihilated, like in the early going and like sweater wear, like a Rick Santorum or something like that. What did he last? Like 2 months in his candidacy for presidency? Like they get annihilated. They're not even relevant in or electable by their own parties voting in primaries.
Mm-hmm.
So they ignored it. And did we gain numbers or lose numbers with the youngsters all that time? I think it's pretty obvious we lost those numbers. We didn't engage the culture war for a long time, and we didn't say anything bad about video games or anime or something, that kind of stuff. There was no national platform for that, or there was it was hardly even talked about. In fact, there was a large swath of the party that was just like, stay away from all those issues, just talk about tax breaks and fiscal policy, right? Like even Mitt Romney ran away from that shit.
Yeah.
Right? Even Mitt Romney during his 2012 election, like he didn't, like that wasn't part of his platform. So we ignored the culture wars for a long time. And what did it get us? Like, it didn't, like, Gen Z weren't like, well, we like Republicans because of this and that. It's like, no, the other side of the culture just continued to run their propaganda campaigns, take over the schools, take over the colleges, and we are where we are. So this idea for me, like that because, like, who's out there going like, well, Matt Walsh is a dick, so I'm going to vote for Joe Biden. Like, because, like, when it comes down to it, like, you have two choices in a presidential election. Realistically, like, you like, who are you going to vote for? Did you vote for Hillary because Matt Walsh doesn't like anime?
Right.
And, like, I don't care what my elected politicians or even my pundits think about, like, you know, I don't go like, well, you don't like country music, so you're out. I just don't understand that argument. Like, you can have, like, even because, one, it's not being made on the large part or by a significant portion of even conservative media, and certainly not the base of the party. And the other side of it is like, okay, who are you going to vote for then? Because, I mean, if you look at what's going on, it'd be like, oh, the right's banning books, right? That's a big, you know, that's a big talking point coming from the left right now, right? It's like, no, they're selecting which textbooks they're going to have or buy for their classrooms, and they're avoiding ones that decide that, like, critical race theory ideals belong in a math textbook. That's fine with me. That's a function of government, right? You know, maybe it shouldn't be, like, you know, for those who are, you know, really libertarian, don't like the public school system. Tim, I know you're like one of them, right? But, like, the fact of the matter is we do have a public school system, and it's better if we're much more engaged with it to try and, you know, stop the pervasive destruction of the education system and the indoctrination that's taking place there. And so, like, you know, banning the book Genderqueer in a library for third graders, like, that's fine, because it's not really banning the books. It's just like, they're not going to have them available for selection in this library. They're still being published. They're not actually banning it. But look at the left. What do they do? They go back and edit movies, put disclaimers in front of movies, want to cancel entire people because they don't like their viewpoints. Like, you know, you shouldn't even watch, you can't like Harry Potter now because we don't like what Rowling said about, you know, transgenderism. Like, they're the ones that are engaging in all the actual meaningful censorship out there.
I saw something today on Facebook with Tom Hanks talking about he doesn't think we should edit old books, you know, from the leftist perspective of, oh no, you know, Catcher in the Rye has something problematic, edited it out. You know, that's, wait a minute here, you're altering art, right?
Yeah, none of that stuff should be altered, but
No,
they're the ones altering it.
mm-hmm.
It isn't the town from Footloose on the right that's banning these fucking books, or like that's editing these things and demanding quotas for hiring to make art, you know. And, you know, here's another kudos to what Richard Dreyfuss says, but he's another one that's not on the side. I guarantee that he's on the roster for every one of those 30,000 a plate dinners that Steven Spielberg throws for the Democrat Party.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I guarantee he's been to a number of them. Don't have the evidence. I don't know where I'd find it, but I'm pretty sure he's not exactly a right. But even he recognizes on the issue, that's, you know, these quota things, they're ridiculous. They're stupid. But it's like, so when it comes to the culture war, like, so you're going to vote for people and you're going to promote companies that are engaging in all this ridiculous censorious activity. And you're not going to be, you're going to be like, well, fuck the right because Matt Walsh said anime is stupid.
Yeah.
I just, like, I don't understand what war you think you're fighting. Like, like some people are just going after, like, him more vehemently than the other side. And by the way, his anime stupid thing that was during a Q&A, like, reading the chat thing, and he was just going off the cuff on that.
Let's do it here.
Like he's not seriously going to ban anime. He's not even advocated for that.
All right, let's do it here.
Really popular amongst teens and young adults. I think it's all satanic. I have no argument for it. I have no argument for why it's satanic. It just seems that way to me. All anime to me seems weird, just like bizarre, creepy.
Pause.
And
okay, so if you're not familiar with this segment when he's talking to the audience, like if somebody submits a chat that like gives him a hard time or whatever, he'll quote ban them from the show. He's not being literal or serious. Like he's not actually banning members from the chat or anything like that. And it like, yes, it's a stupid take, but he says like, I have no rational reason for it.
Yeah. And then
you play it on and like, I'm pretty sure he never advocates for a ban of it. He just is like,
yeah, we'll clarify it.
in general, I don't think that adults should be, whether it's anime or any other kind of cartoon, with rare exception, adults really should be watching cartoons in general, I would say.
Yeah, so hold on. Let's pull this up here because the Bounding article has the clarification. He says he would later make it clear he was making an off-the-cuff joke about anime while satirizing Media Matters and the other outlets who ran his remarks as serious. And Media Matters is a huge, like, left-wing website, has been for a couple of decades.
They were funded, they were created for the explicit purpose originally to pay people to quote Rush Limbaugh on his radio program and find clips to basically like gotcha him.
Yeah.
That was like, it was a response to talk radio. That's it was formed way back when in the 90s.
He said, he noted, these are all things that you might say if you believe that I was not being totally serious when I declared all animation made in Japan satanic. But again, I am serious. If I was joking, I would laugh. Deadpan humor has never been my thing, as you well know. So he's
doing deadpan humor. Yeah.
Yeah. And that is why in the end, with all that said, anime is still canceled and cast back down into the fiery hell flames from whence it came.
And again, not literally he cancels everything he doesn't like. He'll like, if you don't put your cart back in the shopping corral, you're canceled. Like not literally like, we're going to ban anime because, it's satanic.
I don't think it's satanic. But
I don't think anime is satanic. I think anime is stupid. Like, I don't like it. But who cares? Like, if you like anime and I think it's stupid, who cares? Like, oh, we're going to lose the culture war. Tuscan Bob said anime is stupid.
But here's the thing. He has to, on some level, believe that, because you can tell he probably doesn't like it, right?
I can tell he's never watched it. Like, he's never watched it. It's not on his radar.
I'm sure he hasn't. But the point there is, it's like just Quartering, decided to call him out. And then he acts like, he says later, I wasn't saying Matt Walsh, but yeah, you did, because in your own thread, you say Matt's not the only guy saying it. So he apparently was under the impression that he did say it. And then he asked him, hey, do you want to have an interview where we can talk about it? I don't think he ever got a response.
I mean, this is Jeremy the Quartering's like shtick. Like
MO.
He picks these little spats with high profile people, and then by the end of it, he's like, "Oh no, we're still on the same side." He tries to do like the, "Oh no hard feelings" kind of thing. But like that's part of what draws an audience to his channel, and like it's not very genuine, I don't think.
So here's another one that, you can probably tell this one is a lot, you can more easily tell he's being satire. And this is JDA's reaction to him, because I couldn't find the original clip.
You know what? It was JDA that originally quote tweeted him.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Gross oversimplification to accuse me of disavowing video games and social media. You have me on the anime point, however. As we all know, I do literally think that anime is demonic, and every single person who has ever watched it has become possessed by the devil. Literally, that's what I think. But for the rest of it, not so much.
No, you could tell he was like kidding around when he said that. You could just tell.
Let's just say he does think it is. Just for the sake of argument, let's say that like Matt Walsh's true and actual belief is that all anime, the entire art form, is satanic. Who cares? He represent like that viewpoint doesn't even represent like his audience.
Well, and the people in our chat made a good point. Like, let's say he did really have that view, right? And again, I'll make the point that he wouldn't be joking around about it if he didn't vehemently dislike it or have a reason to say that, even making a joke about it. But what about live action? Like, he should be smart enough to know, and probably is smart enough to know, that anything happening in anime is dwarfed by what's happening in live action, right?
He
All
rips the live action stuff
and all
too.
That.
It just
I'm
everybody's
sure,
undies in a bundle.
Corey Cochran's in the house.
I know anime fans are like very passionate about the art that they like, and that's fine. But like, really, not everybody has to like the art that you like. It's okay. Like, there's a lot of people out there that don't like Star Wars, even before the sequels.
Oh, like when Tate triggered people last week.
Yeah, there's another, like, and that guy's a dink too. But like, look, like, you can have a bad take about something and be like, oh yeah, anime. Like, I don't like anime. Like, who cares if somebody likes anime? Like, I don't care if it's like. It'd be like the one question I want to ask the president of the United States is like, "Ooh, do you like this particular kind of music?"
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, boy, he better answer the right way, or I'm just like, I'm out. I'm going to go completely to the other side and go uber sensorial on everything, because like, this guy doesn't like country music. By the way, I don't like country music. I'm just using that as an example.
I do,
but. Like, I don't hate
Doesn't
country
he play
music.
the banjo?
Like, it depends on this particular type.
Doesn't he play the banjo?
Actually, I think he does.
Yeah, I think it's like in his background all the time and stuff. So that's interesting.
Right, but like, I don't know where that translates into like, oh, we're losing the culture war. Like, the reason you want to know the truth that we're losing the culture war is that people won't stop consuming.
That's certainly our take here, right? And
I think
here's
that
what,
like, if you look over time, I think the evidence bears that out. Like, just people won't like. Yeah, some people drop off and they don't watch it.
Well,
like, a lot of us don't, but like the general public.
Here was Darth Melvin's point on his stream last week. With Return of the Jedi. It's like, hey, let's pretend for a minute what we talked about at the beginning of this stream were accurate. That yay, Disney subscribers going down, right? It's a win. Well, when you've got them on the ropes, to use Melvin's words, when you've got them on the ropes, like why stop? Like, keep on punching, jabbing, uppercuts. Like, you've got them on the ropes. Oh no, here's $5 million. Here you go.
Yeah.
Return of the Jedi, and then there'll be like, oh, what's next? We're not going to wait for.
Well, it'll be the anniversary for the Phantom Menace, right?
Well, no, it'll next one up is Revenge of the Sith. 20 years.
20 years for Revenge of the Sith. Okay.
2025. Yeah.
There you go. So I'm sure they'll re-release it in the theaters, and maybe they'll put in Ahsoka, like, they'll do a special edition, and
there you go.
Like, paste Ahsoka into the background somewhere, just to tie it in, because they got to tie in that bitch to everything. But like,
Star Wars is in the house. What's going on?
Welcome, Laura. But yeah, like I just don't see the correlation between like, this is the reason that we're losing the culture wars. Like, Gen Z is just like so enamored with video games and anime that they won't even consider a conservative ideal point because of that. Like I've never made any of my political decisions at the voting booth or campaigns that I've backed or helped with, like any of it based on what they think of a pop culture genre.
But here's the thing. Jeremy from the Quartering is conflating the culture war with who the younger people are voting for on election day, though they're not the same thing. Now you can make the argument. You can make the argument that out of touch, like old guys that make statements like that, yeah, that may push people to say, "Oh, well, I'm voting for the other guy because
while they elect Joe Biden."
Yeah, that's my point. So the difference is culture war is not voting. It just isn't. You could vote Republican like straight down the board. I don't care if it's a freaking mayor or the city controller, whatever the hell it is, all the way to the president of the United States. And then you could be one of the biggest losers in the culture war because, again, you go out there and you barf all your money all over the woke corporations and stuff. So conflating who you vote for with the culture war is not logical. So
no, and I think the culture war is important in the fact that I think that the ideas represented in modern culture, and maybe it hasn't hit anime yet. It will. It's inevitable. If anime makes money, they're going to infest it. It's not immune. Because the distribution control is a couple companies. And anytime that you have just a few companies controlling distribution of a particular art form, it doesn't take much for them to take it over because they just got to basically sway those couple companies, get their foot in the door and start changing things around. And the gaming industry, I think, is a classic example. The gaming industry is, by my estimation, is completely lost already.
A lot of things are already lost.
There's woke ideology all over it. It's barfed through and through it. And there's, and it's not just in the content in the games, but it's in the communities that surround the games, whether it's in-game text chat or in-game voice chat. It's a nanny tattletale culture where the people who do all the tattling get their way and the others get banned. Oh, you misgendered somebody, or you didn't, they said they're a deer and you called them a moose for their pronouns. You're out. All that stuff. Yes, it does influence children's and people's perceptions of the world as they consume it. Because if you want to make the argument it doesn't, then the culture war then doesn't matter, then does it? So if you believe the culture war matters, then you have to believe that the things in culture make a difference. Otherwise, why fight it? If it's just a matter of taste and what you consume, then who cares what anybody else consumes? What are you fighting for? And unless it's just oh, I don't like the one thing that they ruined that I liked, which I think is, then you're not really fighting the culture war there either. But anywhere there's money to be made, they're going to infest it again, especially as less and less companies control all the distribution. So in the video game industry, it's if you make your goal, if you're starting up an independent video game company, is to get bought out by Microsoft or Sony. That's your goal. And any CEO of an indie game company that says otherwise is fucking lying to you, because they will sell. Microsoft comes around and offers them hundreds of millions of dollars to take their IP off their hands. They're going to pay it. And I don't blame them. It's a hell of a payday.
So do you think that this is not being well received? Let's do this progressively, not these points aren't being made on the same level. It's progressive. So number one, people don't understand the humor, right, of this Matt Walsh, and they're making assumptions that he's being genuine when he says this. So let's proceed to the next step. Once they do that, they get offended, kind of like with certain parties in Return of the Jedi did with us, where I say we, it was me. Like, I go out there and make a trolling tweet that, hey, if you do this, you're a shill, right? So they get mad that, hey, thing I like, I want thing I like, and you're saying I can't have it. So now I'm like getting butthurt about it. I think that's what's happening here. He's making an off-color joke, and people don't understand the humor. They're not picking it up that, hey, he's joking around, and he's making this very subtle smirk when he's saying this. Or if you don't know the guy, you wouldn't know either. And then they go, oh no, I like anime and I'm mad about it. Do you think that's what's happening here?
I think it's a lot of over, like, you're defending like the thing you like, and again, you like it, that's fine, but like, how many Gen Zers, like, to go back to courting, like, how many Gen Zers are listening to the Daily Wire's Matt Walsh?
Yeah.
Like, that's chasing them, and that's causing us to lose some sort of culture war. And like, look at our modern politicians when you break it down to like where the votes are going. Like, I don't think ever in the history of this country have we had more geriatrics running the joint. Like, name me a politician that's like not out of touch with like pop culture shit. They're all out of touch on that stuff, yet they managed to win elections. Like, changing the culture war, you got to change the companies that are doing it. And one thing that we can do, I think, is and it's going to irritate the diehard libertarians out there, but like, I don't really know what else is the solution. Like, we got to stop allowing just a few companies to monopolize an entire industry. I think like when these video game companies want to swallow up, like when Microsoft wants to swallow up Activision, no. Or like, when Disney wants to buy Fox, no, you can't. And again, it's gonna irritate the natural tendencies of libertarians, because they're just gonna be like, well, it's a business decision, we should let it go. It's like, well, then you have very few companies, very few small members of the board that have an outsized influence on the entire distribution of pop culture.
Mm-hmm.
How many video game companies are there? I mean, really, are there? I think there's a bunch of independents, sure. But like, sure, there's independent movie makers as well.
Yeah.
And what do? They gatekeep the industry to keep the little indies out until they get bought up. And it happens with movies all the time. Like, the way the studios structure these deals to show the big ticket, blockbuster movies is basically by forcing the theaters to not engage in business with other people. Like, no, you have to, like, in order to show my movie, like our movie on opening night, you need to commit to 5 screens for at least 60 days or however many. It's not 60 days anymore, of course, but like for 30 days, even though like they only need 1 after the first weekend. What does that do? Well, that keeps the competition out.
Yep.
And so you go to these movies, second, third week, and you walk into the theater, even the blockbuster ones that are doing gangbusters, and the theater's 3/4 empty, where they didn't need to show these things, but they're crowding out all the independents through that way. And there's very few companies that distribute movies. There's like, Sony, Disney, Paramount.
Well, when you say Disney, yeah, everything under their umbrella.
Yeah. Because we keep allowing these companies to merge and get further control. And now you don't have to control 20 different companies. You just gotta control a couple.
Yep.
And the same thing happens, bringing it back to politics. It happens, like, why is money such an issue in politics? Well, because everything is now vested in the executive branch. The executive branch has ridiculous power. to basically do almost anything it wants, whenever it wants, pen and paper, with the phone, all executive orders, all that bullshit. All the ABC alphabet agencies are all under the executive branch, fully controlled by whoever's running the executive. Very easy to buy that election. Not so easy to buy 435 individual members, though, on a particular issue. So when you have that concentration of power, it becomes very easy to corrupt it and manipulate it. Yeah, Buena Vista did have, Dan, you're right. I believe that was a Disney subsidiary. They distributed most of the Disney stuff, but I don't see how he's attacking the people.
Yeah, I think
I think when it comes to
joke,
well, and but there's some truth to it. Like I think it is bad for people to spend all day playing a video game. Like we'd say it's bad for somebody to spend all day on the couch eating potato chips. That doesn't mean we're banning potato chips, but it's not probably a good course of action. Like I think it's fine for a commenter to say, like, look, this shouldn't be something that you're obsessed and doing all day. There's much more to life to live, and you'll probably be a happier, more rounded person if you're not playing shoot 'em up games 24/7. I see no problem with somebody making that statement.
But yeah, the Return of the Jedi thing. Let's go back to that. Like,
yeah,
I made the statement I did and made a lot of people mad because, again, I think people take it personal to look at this comment from Timon, like, you won't sway minds. Well, sometimes shaming people is the only way, because using other methods hasn't swayed minds either over the last 2 or 3 years. It just hasn't. People continue to vomit their money all over these companies. So maybe some shaming is in order. Now, again, I don't think it's because of anime. Like, if you look at anime in general, it is more about the stories and characters and stuff, and not about what we're doing over here in the West with, inserting all the woke messages. And when I say we, I mean as a culture and stuff. So for him to come out and say that it's a joke we've established, but here's the thing. You got to be careful, because is he just talking to his audience there, and he just doesn't give a rat's ass if what has happened does happen, where people take these out of context clips and they say, hey, look, he's talking bad about anime, right? Should you be conscious of that, or should you not give a shit because you're just talking to your audience? Like, imagine if some people took my quotes, right? Some people took your quotes. Someone took Rhino's quotes, and they could have a field day there, and Lethal Lightning's quotes, and they went and said, hey, look at what this guy's saying. Even if they showed the whole damn live stream, if you don't understand us and our humor, then people would draw some conclusions here, right? So if you're Matt Walsh, should you be more conscious of that, or do you just not care and he's just talking to his audience and making the jokes that he normally makes? Because everyone seems to think, like 99% of the people I've observed tonight in doing all this research think that he actually meant what he said. Even the ones that knew he was joking, oh, it's tongue in cheek, but maybe it isn't tongue in cheek. Maybe I really mean it a little bit, Should he be conscious of that? I don't know.
I don't think it matters. Like if you think he's a dick and like you don't like the way he's talking down to you or whatever, like, don't watch the show.
Yeah.
like he's not an appointed leader. Like, now granted, like outside of like these things, the stuff that he's actually doing in the real world has actually like going to college campuses, touring with the What is a Woman documentary, rallying the state of Tennessee to pass legislation banning child mutilation, like that kind of stuff. Like, he's actually really doing engaging work. But even if you you don't like Matt Walsh, like I again, then just tune him out. I don't see why he's suddenly like the representative of the entire right side of the political spectrum, and then that's somehow turning off entire generations of people. They're like, well, like, I give up on conservative values and libertarian principles even just because Matt Walsh says anime is dumb or satanic or whatever.
Well, yeah.
I don't see the connection. Like, you might not like what he said, but like, who cares?
I didn't know who the hell he was until I got on Twitter, which actually today is my 3-year Twitter anniversary. So,
happy anniversary.
5/10/2020.
Twitter, the home of Tucker Carlson.
Yeah. So somebody didn't like one of my tweets in the last couple of weeks, and they had screenshotted something in a quote tweet, and it said something like 15,000 tweets I'd made or something like that. They're like, this account has tweeted entirely too much or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about? Like, is that a lot of tweets? I feel like I don't tweet that much. I may check it in the morning when I get home from work. I may check it, and then play around when I'm sitting here.
Maybe 5 a day.
Yeah, if even that. And then I'll message you guys, throughout the day if I have time. So I feel like whatever number I had wasn't a lot of tweets. So maybe I'm wrong.
No, you go to some people's Twitter feed and it's like, because you saw a tweet and then you like it scrolled or whatever, you missed it. So you go to their homepage or whatever, their profile page, and you're trying to find it. And it's just like, you scrolled 18 pages and you're on like 2-day-old tweets. You're like, Jesus Christ, this person tweets a lot.
Yeah, I know.
Retweets everything. Like, it's a good Lord.
Yes, and thank you very much, if you're not being sarcastic, Alora, about my Twitter anniversary. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's not a lot. I'm not on there all the time, but what's funny is, by the way, guys, Melvin has finally made a video on Pete Fletzer, aka Peen Fletzer from Around the Galaxy. But, he does the whole Alex Jones thing. But he said last night, like, look at this guy's Twitter feed. It's like he lives on Twitter. He's like a 50-something old guy. He probably didn't have a regular job. And it's like he sits at his computer all day on Twitter. I'm not like that. Like, when I worked from home, I had my personal PC going here, and then I had my work one going here. And I might kind of check stuff throughout the day and all that. But yeah, I'm not like on my phone like some people, like constantly, tweeting and quote tweeting and replying, and I'm not that person. So I feel like I don't tweet a lot. Maybe I need to tweet more. Maybe I need to ramp it up. Those are rookie numbers.
I think like excessively posting or obsessing about what everybody else is posting is just generally probably not healthy behavior. It certainly becomes addicting. Like, if you get in the habit of it, it's like,
yeah.
But you see it all the time. People get like burned out on it. They're like, I'm leaving Twitter for a while because I'm just burned out on this. I got to put it down, man. Like, this is controlling too much of my emotions during the day. Like, getting all pissed off about what somebody said on Twitter, and like it's affecting their mood.
Yeah, right. Like I give a rat's ass.
Well, I mean, that's the proper attitude, but like, a lot of people take it pretty damn seriously. And like, I see some stuff that pisses me off.
I wish I could think of an example, Greg. Timon here says anime is a medium, not a genre. He's right, because anime could be like a sci-fi like Cowboy Bebop or Star Blazers, or it could be, like some medieval thing, or the popular thing now is like someone is like in human form that's a demon, and everyone has to fight that person. That a lot of the stuff that our friend Deadwood Tail was watching was centered around that type stuff. But yeah, that's true, Timon.
I mean, I don't know a whole lot about
medium.
The spectrum of different animes. Yes, it is a medium. It is a style of animation more than anything.
Yes,
it's a style I don't particularly care for. But if you look at, like, I don't think it's out of bounds to say that there's a particular genre of anime movies that are super dominant.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when people start listing their animes, they're of a similar nature. They're not that they're, yes, they could of course be extremely diverse, just as diverse as regular movies, right? But there's a particular kind within that medium that draws most of the attention, or it seems to from my perspective. I don't know. I don't watch it because I don't like the style.
Understood.
But just because I don't like the style and it's not for me doesn't mean like, oh geez, like
that's why we're losing the culture war.
Invalid. That's everything else I say is invalid because I don't like the thing you like.
No, but I'm drawing that parallel now it's amazing I hadn't thought of this until we started the stream tonight, but I'm drawing that parallel to Return of the Jedi and me again, that like, hey guys, and here's where it's not a parallel. Like, I'm not joking, right? Even though it was a trolly hyperbolic tweet, I very much meant what I said, right? Whereas Matt Walsh, yeah, maybe I'm joking, maybe I'm not, but the comparison there is that, hey guys, like, don't go spend money on Return of the Jedi. Don't do it. And then people get offended and mad, just like they are here. That's the comparison, right? So you can't say about me that, hey, this is the reason we're losing the culture war because you're telling people not to give Disney money. What? How does that work? How the hell does that work? In fact, Robot Head, right? Robot Head quote tweeted me that same day in a very, I thought, respectful manner. And he said, hey, but don't we want to support the good stuff and send them a message? And I replied saying, the messaging hasn't worked. Look at Spider-Man No Way Home and look at what else was good? Ghostbusters and Top Gun and whatever else. Well, guess what happened, guys?
Mario.
Well, and then guess what? Like, the Rey movie is still happening. In fact, I'm going to pick up Empire magazine tomorrow that hits the stands and see what all they're talking about Disney Star Wars in it. The Rey movie is happening. Don't forget, we've been told for 3 or 4 years the Disney trilogy is going to get retconned and all that. But guess what? Supporting the good stuff, aka Return of the Jedi, isn't stopping the Rey movie from happening. So, again, this isn't the spacing, but the parallels there with, hey, making a hyperbolic statement like that and then getting offended because it's kind of a selfish reason, I think, is the best way to describe it. Like, I like that thing. You're saying not to do it. Or you're saying that you think it's a certain way or whatever. Well, just ignore me if you don't agree, or ignore Matt Walsh, or else reply with something more than, this is why you're losing. No, that's, to your point earlier, that's not an argument for why you're losing. It might be why you're driving people to the other side of the polling place, but not because not in the culture war for sure.
I don't even think that. Like, because I mean, like, the public at large isn't, they're not dialed into what Matt Walsh is saying. And like, look, I enjoy video games. I played too much video games probably, and I've played video games, particularly PC games, for as long as I can remember. I played video games on my Texas Instrument TI 99 4A, with the cassette tape as a storage medium, right? I've been playing video games for a long time. So like, I certainly don't believe in the idea that, like, video games have any correlation to violence, but like, I also don't believe that my friends who have kids, my sister has kids, my brother has kids. They all restrict their kids' screen time, and I think that's probably a good thing. And they lump screen time with, whether it's playing on a console or on their phones, playing stupid phone games, and things like that. And I don't think that there's any. Yeah, Oregon Trail. God, I did. I played Zork. Okay, a text-based adventure game. Love that game.
I remember.
Where you had to you had graph paper to map out as you went. So you keep track of where you were going and how to get out of wherever you were and things like that. I had fun playing those video games, but do I think kids should spend all day playing video games, or parents should let their kids playing all day video games? No. Do I say should we ban video games? No. Do I think they think they cause school shootings? No. And look, even if a politician says so or insinuates so, I'm not going to leave the entire ideology because one politician has a stupid take. I mean, if I'm going to be a single issue voter, that's not the issue. That's going to be the single issue. The single issue voter for me is that the Migratory Bird Act needs to be repealed and replaced to allow the murder of any Canadian goose at any time by any means whatsoever until the entire race of bird is extinguished. That would be I would vote for a Democrat if they put that on their platform and meant it. But besides that, I'm typically not a single issue voter, and I'm certainly not going to abandon all my philosophies regarding the Second Amendment, civil liberties, free speech, and all those other things because one jobber on the internet has a bad take, and that applies to Matt Walsh, and it certainly applies to Andrew Tate, although I wouldn't listen to Andrew Tate on anything.
No, and
because I don't think he's serious about anything. He's just a braggadocious dick.
Why is he even famous?
Basically, because a lot of dude bros seem to think that he has something of value to say. He's promoting that whole don't get married, have lots of chicks, make lots of money, and you'll live a fulfilling life. And I think that's pretty terrible advice. His Star Wars day, he was look at me, what did he say? I didn't watch Star Wars, so that's why I have $400 million or something. It's well, I could probably think of a lot of billionaires that have way more money than you that watch Star Wars and didn't affect them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah. Hey, did you watch this earlier tonight? I didn't even know this was happening. Did you watch this?
No, I saw some reports on it, and here's the problem with this. I'm going to have to watch it myself because you can't trust anybody now.
Well, everyone's going after the babe who interviewed him or whatever.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's certain people that it basically comes down to it. If you don't like Trump, then he did terrible. If you love Trump, then he totally owned him. That's from what I've seen in articles and tweets about it. That's kind of where it comes down to. If you're a Cult 45 person, he totally owned the place, and if you're not a Cult 45 person, then he did terrible.
Well, listen to this here.
That result, and when you look at what happened during that election, unless you're a very stupid person, you see what happens. A lot of the people in this audience, and maybe a couple that don't, but most people understand what happened. That was a rigged election, and it's a shame that we had to go through it. It's very bad for our country.
And then I guess later on he called her a nasty person.
Of course, because that's what gets his fans going, right?
Yeah, and it has. If you haven't seen it on Twitter, it's probably trending. But yeah, to your point, that's something we'll have to go back and watch.
But I mean, this is the same guy that is just I might not even take part in any of the primary debates because it's rigged by the media, and then he goes on CNN.
Yep.
Like, look, I'm going to vote for the Republican candidate in 2024, but I ain't voting for him in the primary.
No, me neither.
I like
Sorry,
in
guys.
my book, like if you're at the top of the ticket and you lose once, you're done with politics. You're out. You lost.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to redo. Like, and as far as anything rigged goes, like the only thing I'll say is like, yeah, the media was rigged. You know, what they're telling you or what they didn't tell you, you know, the American people during the lead up to the election, or the way they phrased or tried to portray certain events that were going on in the world. Like, it wasn't honest.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll hit home with independent women voters.
Yeah, like, so like if you believe that like the election wasn't rigged, you're stupid. Well, I mean, there's an example where it's like, okay, but like he's actually a politician that's a front runner in the race currently. Like, so would I say it's a wise political move to call people stupid? Probably not.
Well, and I don't think DeSantis has declared, right?
DeSantis has not officially like thrown his hat in the ring. I think it's like inevitable, probably.
Mm-hmm.
But like right now, he's not on the board. I like DeSantis. I think, well, I think we'll see. But like, I think if you look at just like actually putting stuff into place and actually winning and actually doing stuff, he's and surrounding himself with competent people that can actually administer a government. Like, I think hands down, he's a much better candidate than Trump. Because remember, like, we had 4 years of Trump. Let's, and you know, I voted for the guy in 2020, but like he didn't surround himself with good people at all. His cabinet sucked. You know, he's, you know, and part of the thing is like, I'm going to have the greatest people, and you know, we're going to have the greatest cabinet, and they're going to get, his cabinet sucked.
Yeah.
And you know, he didn't drain the swamp, didn't build the wall.
Well, he did have good spokespeople though.
His press secretaries were actually pretty good. Like, because
Yes.
if you got to be a press secretary for him, like you got to be on your toes, man.
Yep.
So yeah, like Kayleigh McEnany and
Huckabee,
Sarah Huckabee Sanders were pretty good.
Yep.
You know, much better than like our current one. It's just like, yeah, I'm not going to answer that.
Oh my gosh. I can't go onto Twitter without her latest one like being superimposed with the clown face. You know, like every day she says something stupid. Like, you're horrible at this.
Yeah,
she's not carpet, get off the stage.
Yeah, she's not really good at her job at all. But she gets a very big helping hand from the press corps.
You know what?
With the exception of like, you know, Peter Doocy.
Yeah. You know what, Stezo? Like, here's the thing. Like, this Robert F. Kennedy Jr. thing. Have you seen all this stuff? The tweets he's making and all that?
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has been a nut job his entire adult life.
Well, here's where I'm going with this. I think it's some kind of psyop. I think they're trying to split the vote and, hey, we're going to draw some, you know, some Republicans over or whatever, and then fold you. Like, yeah, I don't trust that guy any further than I can throw him
He's not gonna,
uphill and against the wind.
As long as Biden is still alive, he's not going to win. Biden's going to win the primaries. Because you got to remember, the DNC primary system is different than the RNC primary system, where they have like the super delegates, right? You know, that was the big thing that Hillary beat, you know, Bernie in 2016 in the primary process. It was largely in part due to the super the super delegate shenanigans and stuff like that, which burned a lot of Bernie supporters who then didn't show up for her in the general election. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why Trump didn't win Trump won in the Midwest.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like, voted for the guy. Like, I don't hate him, but like 2016, Trump didn't win, Hillary lost. I'm sorry, that's just a reality. People stayed home rather than voted for Hillary. They didn't like her. She's unlikable. And it was less about what Trump was doing and just more about, ugh, Hillary.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I think that's, if it's a rematch in 2024, I think it's going to go the same way, and it's going to be, ugh, Trump.
Right.
To be honest, I don't see there's a chance in hell he carries any Midwest state that he carried in 2016. No way. He's certainly not carrying my state. He'll lose by double digits easy.
Or Pennsylvania.
I mean, Pennsylvania elected a
an
stroke
invalid
retard.
Yep. Good luck
With like
with
this
that.
big ass goiter on his fucking neck, and like couldn't even talk. I don't think Pennsylvania is going Trump.
No.
In 2024. I don't think Michigan's gone further left than in the last election cycle. Like, I don't think he's got a shot there. I don't think he's got a shot at Wisconsin. And without those states, he's toast.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think he wins Arizona. Probably doesn't win
Probably
Georgia
not.
either.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but even if he does win Georgia and like he picks that one back up, it's still way under. Like,
mm-hmm. I think he'd take Georgia. I do. I think he'd take Georgia.
I don't know. Georgia's demographics have changed. Again, stupid state inviting like the most liberal industry on the planet and literally paying them to come move there and fuck up your elections. Brilliant move, Georgia Republicans. Brilliant move.
Yeah,
Let's bring all the Hollywood liberals to our state.
Damn carpetbaggers.
And I'm sorry, like I think if an actual investigation was done, like I think you would find a lot of people illegally voted in both California and Georgia. Got no evidence, but I just suspect. And Georgia's stupid runoff scheme that it has basically kind of allows it.
Oh, when they don't,
when neither candidate hits a plurality, then
yep. Mm-hmm.
Then it goes to a runoff election with just the top two candidates, and then the people that could voted in their home state of California and be like, well, I'm going to be a Georgia resident for the next couple months.
Yep, exactly. So that'll be interesting. But yeah, we need to go back and watch that. Obviously not together, but on our own time. I'll probably check it out Saturday morning, watch it on high speed.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to watch it on high speed too, because like his cadence and everything is a little bit too slow at the times. And
well, I watch almost everything unless it's like a TV show or a movie on high speed, because I got to get through what I watch. I just don't have time to listen to unless I'm driving or something like that. But if
I listen at 1.25 or 1.5 a lot of stuff, but there's certain things like I can't listen to your videos at 1.5. You naturally talk fast, so like 1.5 is almost inaudible.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I don't talk slow like Eeyore.
Yeah, there are other people, particularly on YouTube. I watch their stuff and it's like, oh my god, I could play it at 10x and still be bored.
Oh yeah. So, shifting topics, do you think it's okay to show that dumb, phony PSA thing? Do you think that's okay?
Which dumb, phony PSA thing?
The musket one.
Well, it doesn't show him actually like shooting anybody or anything, so I don't think it's like going to violate any sort of YouTube standards for violence.
All right, so this was put out. We'll find out who it was, and then we'll kind of tell you what point they're trying to make here, and then we'll talk about it. So here we go. Let me share this. I don't know how old this is or anything, but some gun grabber shared it on Twitter.
It always gets these things always get recirculated every time there's a shooting.
But I thought it's always a good time to have a refresher on the second. So here we go.
I like pause. I like how everybody in the office is just fine with him like hauling in this huge ass musket, and they only start freaking out once he draws aim.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's totally normal for everybody in this office to walk around with a musket. Like nobody bats an eye. Like I'm thinking to myself, like, he should have been tackled like the moment he walked in. But okay.
Yeah, it's got to be old white guy with the John Hannibal Smith jacket on too. So
right.
So he's fired a shot. He's missed everyone. So here's what he does next. Put the wad in. There's the rammer. So the point here is they're trying to make that, hey, if people like this, right, didn't have access to weaponry that could fire more shots without having to reload, that workplace violence wouldn't happen. That's the point they're trying to make. And then you saw the text that said, what did it say? Our guns have changed. Why haven't our gun laws? Well,
yeah,
it's butt fuckers like this that don't understand the whole point of the Second Amendment. It's not that, they wrote it about muskets. Here's what they wrote it for. And this is why it's so vague. And we'll go into much more detail, but from a high level, it's that, hey, you need to have the level of weaponry, right, to be able to oppose the government. So if the government has fully automatic, semi-automatic, unlimited supply of ammunition and whatever, and you have a musket, do you think you're going to stand any chance against tyranny? Absolutely not. You're going to get wiped out. That's the whole point behind the second.
Yeah.
Let's see what it says. Let's see what the Second Amendment says. A well-regulated militia being necessary to being necessary to the freedom. Second Amendment. Being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. What that means is, it doesn't mean arming the militia. What it means is the militia is what you're afraid of. Now, the reason it's written that way, and I have books on this, like one of the best ones is the Heritage Guide to the Constitution. It devotes probably 30 pages to the second. If you look in context there was no standing army. Like the Continental Army, whatever, it was raised to fight the Revolutionary War. That's why it was. It wasn't like, it's the army. It was raised for that purpose and funded for that purpose. There wasn't a, Department of Defense like there is now. So after that, right, when they're writing the Constitution, eventually ratified in, what was it, 1791? Yeah, 1791. While they're writing that, they're like, well, there is no military. In fact, George Washington had to secretly have the frigates made for the Navy because there was no funding for it. So he kind of revealed later on, hey, by the way, I have these frigates. And good thing, because we wound up needing them, like against the Barbary pirates and against, guess who? Our friends across the pond again, when we tried to invade Canada in one of the dumbest wars we've ever been in, the War of 1812. Anyway, the reason it's written
I think
that
we
way is
should go do
because.
that war right now.
And what's that?
Invade Canada.
Yeah, no kidding. I don't think we'd win. That's how bad we are now. Anyway, yeah, we'd become the new Putin in Russia, right? And they'd be the new Ukraine. Anyway, so yeah, everyone would change their flags, their profile pic to the Canadian flag. A well-regulated militia. The reason it's there is because there was no standing army, there was no military, but there were militias. So they would have been the threat against the citizenry because they were acting kind of as, for lack of a better term, the peacekeepers and stuff like that. So what it's saying here, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. In other words, hey, the military, for lack of to be specific here, because it really wasn't just the militia, that was the military. Them being necessary because if they're not there, the nation is not going to be secure. Acknowledging the existence, what's the term I'm looking for, Greg? The necessary evil, right, of having a standing army, a militia at that point, because again, no like standing army. Hey, we got to have these guys, or guess what? Spain can invade. England can invade. Hell, even our allies, France can invade. We got to have the military, so we acknowledge that. But guess what? They're also a threat to us as tyrants. The right of the people to keep and bear arms to protect themselves against the militia shall not be infringed. People don't believe me when I tell them that, but it's all there in the associated documents and letters between the different
Federalist Papers and
ratifiers.
everything like that. But you don't even have to go that far. Like, you could look all over the world where you have these states that get basically taken over by the state's military, overthrows its own government. Happens all the time. And if the people aren't able to arm themselves against that and pose like a threat, it's a deterrent. Like, yes, the government, the army, the navy, they got nukes and they got fighter jets and all this other stuff, but like, it's a deterrent because would they be able to maintain control? They could obliterate us, sure, but like, they won't be able to control us.
No, but I believe we should be able to have fighter jets. If I wanted to form a militia where I live, then I should have access to that. I mean, that's a whole different argument. The point here is the intent was that, hey, to put it in modern language, like, hey guys, we have a military to defend our country, but that military can also be a threat to you if used by the wrong leaders. So we're going to let you own guns to protect yourselves from them. That's what it means. But people conflate that with, oh no, a well-regulated militia. That means the arms are for that militia. No, it's against that militia. People do not believe me on both sides when I try to explain this to them. The Second Amendment isn't about...
And the commas have particular meaning in the phrasing of that. Like, so
exactly.
The declarative statement at the end, shall not be infringed, is the controlling statement.
Yes, and that was an argument that Scalia, every time he had to write, an argument on that, that's what he would. It's called a binding statement, is what you're talking about. Yes, but anyway, the intent of it is what you have to look at, and if you also look at a lot of the history of the Constitution, we took a long time to write it because when did the war end? Was it 17? Oh,
don't quiz me on dates.
I think it ended 79, maybe. Let's look here. Revolutionary War. Revolutionary War. Let's see.
September 1783.
It went all the way to 83, yeah. So people talk about 76. The fighting started actually in 71. even before it was like an official war in 75. So point is, we took a good 8 years after that to like say, hey, this is how we're going to run our country, right? So a lot of it was purposefully vague, like the Second Amendment, because these guys were smart enough to know that, hey, if we make it specific, it will be contemporary to the time we're living in and not future periods, right?
These are principles of liberty, not literal like lists of things that you're allowed. Like,
exactly. They're protections from stuff, or as our former president Barack Hussein Obama called it, negative liberties is what he referred to it as. It's protection from the state, not, not.
It's a list of what the government can't do.
Precisely. Yes, which has implications of what you should be able to do. So they left a lot of those necessarily vague, and honestly, some of them are vague because they couldn't agree. They're like, all right, we can't agree on this one, so let's leave it vague. And that's why you wound up with the Constitution that you have. But this one, we can look at all the evidence like Heritage Guide does, all the letters between all these guys and news pieces and all that shit. And you can look at the definition of militia at the time.
Yep.
The etymology of it, just like I did in my canon documentary. Like, you got to look at what things meant in that time. And these guys were smart. I guarantee if you transported, if George Washington were in the pattern buffer on Star Trek, right? If you brought him and Jefferson and especially Ben, if you brought Ben Franklin right now, I think, there would be a little bit of shock, but I think after like a few hours, these guys would be able to comprehend what's going on, because I think they were that smart in that period for their time. I think they were visionaries, and that's why they were the leaders and they had risen to the top, right? That's why they were the cream of the crop in this land 230 years ago, because they were that intelligent. So I think they'd be able to understand what's going on now. And I think that's why we landed where we did in a lot of this language.
Yeah, it's very deliberate. I mean, going back to that video, like, besides the constitutional Second Amendment argument there, like,
yeah,
the idea is like, okay, so what do the gun grabbers always say? Like, we don't want to take away your hunting rifles and all that. Guess what? I could walk into that same office with my shotgun on a sling and carrying my 306 semi-automatic. It's not an assault weapon, it's a hunting rifle. It shoots ammunition that's bigger than an AR-15. Does a lot more damage than an AR-15 will. And it's one squeeze, one bullet.
It just looks differently.
It's stylistically differently. It's stylistically different, and but if practiced, can essentially perform the same function. So, like, they always say, like, well, we just want to ban the assault rifles. Well, I can go in that office with something like a handgun. Like, I can walk in carrying 2 handguns, sling my shotgun on my back, carrying my hunting rifle, and do a fuck ton of damage. And that's without having to have a massive magazine or anything. Like, I could take out that whole office.
Yep.
It doesn't need to be an assault rifle. So somebody with the intent, I could walk in there with a Molotov cocktail and kill a bunch of people.
Well, and here's the thing. They know that. Okay. They know that.
Yeah, they know that.
But here's what they're doing. Like, okay, we get, the ARs banned. Well, what's next? Let's ban the next thing. And then the next. They know that. It's a slippery slope. That's why they're going after that first. In fact, some states already have.
Because they look scary.
Like, remember Johnny Cochran back in the 90s, like, don't go to prison. Don't put a stock on your Glock. It's like, are you kidding me? Because I put a stock on my pistol, I'm going to go to federal prison. Yeah. Are you freaking kidding me?
Where's that case?
Fuck the ATF. Fuck the FBI.
Well, fuck
them all.
National Firearms Act.
Yes. The Second Amendment means that you can have what you need to protect yourselves from the government period. And I think it's a good thing. Like, to your point about the nukes and all that, one of the guys, I can't remember which one, but one of the guys from National Review, and I think he eventually got TDS and all that, but he made a great tweet several years back where he said something to the effect of, and this is a quote starting out like, you can't fight the government because if you do, they will nuke your house and I'm your neighbor, is one of the greatest arguments against owning an AR-15 I've ever heard, or something like that. It's like, yeah, okay, are you going to nuke like a whole city and then like only 20% of them are the gun people that the government doesn't like? Are you going to roll into a neighborhood with a tank and just start shooting, like, and then you're hitting houses with people that are not the ones that are going against the government? That makes no sense at all. And not only that, but look how we won that war 230 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Guerrilla tactics and all that stuff. So being armed, right, with, at least on the personal level, with weaponry that is proportionate to the force you're fighting, I mean, that's all you really need.
I wish somebody would have replied to that like tweet with like the clip from The Patriot, be like, hey, Mel Gibson loaded his pretty fast.
What a great movie, by the way. I love that movie.
Oh, I do too. It's fantastic. Like all the characters, like even the characters you're supposed to hate, you fucking hate. Like the characters you're supposed to like, you like. Like, I mean,
have you ever seen the extended version?
I don't know if I have.
That thing is long, man. Like,
Is it really?
It's long. Yeah. I mean, just the normal movies, what, 3 hours, I think?
Is there a scene where he gets it on with his wife's sister?
No.
Yeah,
but she was pretty hot.
Yeah, that's the version I want to see. I want to see like the sex scene there.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the style of like Lethal Weapon 1.
Right. I wouldn't have mind seeing the guy that died in real life.
Heath Ledger?
Yeah, Heath and his girlfriend in the movie too. That would have been,
as long as they didn't have like the tea-stained like teeth. That was kind of gross. Or the ink-stained teeth. That was kind of gross.
Yeah.
You'd watch it too, Laura.
I try to watch that movie every 4th of July. My son will be here again during that time period, so we'll definitely probably sit right in here. By the way, if you look this way, that's like where my entertainment is. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that. Let's see if I got my couch and like my television way down there, so it's nice and cozy, and I get good acoustics in here, and so he and I will probably chill out in here and watch The Patriot. I've seen that movie probably a good 30, 40 times.
Oh, I haven't seen it near that many times, but it's pretty good. I mean, any
every
movie
4th of July,
taking their leg taken off with a cannonball is pretty awesome.
Oh yeah, and there's a scene where the head comes off, and
I don't know, the leg always is just like, oh, ow.
Well, wait till you see Master and Commander. I mean, there's some pretty intense scenes, with
I need to check my tracking on that.
Yeah. So which version did you get?
Is it Blu-ray?
Laura sent a thing. Oh my gosh. Hold on. We gotta read this now, and then we'll talk about that. All right. So in Streamlabs, Alora sent $20 American. Happy YouTube anniversary, Tim. Thank you for your friendship and support. No, thank you. And I hope you had a good time over there tonight. I popped in early and looked like everyone was having fun. So, that's what it's all about. We try to make this stuff fun and funny all the time, right? But yeah, I can speak for me and Greg. We have enjoyed, the last couple of years, especially the last year streaming with you. And I think I think, we found a formula that works, and I think our audience agrees with that. So yeah, thank you so much. And I assume you're going live tomorrow for your coffee chat, calf chat. If you are, then, make sure you send us the tweet so we can retweet it, because as always, I'll be working on the occasional day that I take off on a Thursday, because sometimes I'll do a 4-day weekend. I could pop on, because I feel guilty that I'm never available to pop on other people's stuff. I just can't. But if I'm off on a Thursday, it's like, hell yeah. Like, I think I did once or twice with her in the last year and a half. So
the important thing that I think you got to realize about that $20, like that $20, like, think about how much jingling she had to do this last week. Wow. To make that $20.
Oh, they're not key jingling. Okay, got it.
Not jangling the keys. I think she called it a jingle dance, I believe.
Yeah.
Is that the one you won, Laura? You got a cut of that jingle dance. You should be proud.
Yeah, like the one she's doing here. That's cool.
Yeah.
Back in the day in the 90s, I got invited to a couple of those, probably the same one she goes to in NorCal, and I just never got around to going. But I heard some crazy stories, like about, there's this one hut at the thing, and they have this stone with the boiling water, and like the guy will hit it with more and it steams, and you put your face over it, right? And you get like this natural high, and you can potentially have like a vision quest and stuff. It's so it's interesting. Some of my Mexican friends would go, and because they would get invited, at the college campus by some of the Indian people, and they would wind up going because, technically Mexican people are Native American, right? So Aztec, Mayan, whatever. So they would wind up going, and
with a whole lot of Spanish blood mixed in.
Yeah. Well, and French possibly as well.
Yep.
Yeah, Sweat Lodge. Yeah. Preston's in the house. Nate 7 Jedi says about 45 minutes behind, but everything I've heard so far, I've come to pretty much the same conclusions, except maybe focusing on Jeremy's junk. It was hard to let go. I think on the screen it was hard to let go fandoms initially, but once I did. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's true. It's like, and it doesn't go away. Like what we've been preaching here is like, look at your bookshelves and your DVD shelves. All that stuff is still out there to watch, right? And there's so much of it you've never seen. Or if you take Star Wars, for example, or even Star Trek, for example, you start watching something from the beginning and you go through it like one episode a day. It's going to take you years to get through it. If you're reading books, it's going to take you multiple years to get through it. By the time you start over again, you've forgotten.
Yeah, I mean, like, just watching like TNG, like through like a rewatch session. There's some episodes where I just like, I know I've seen this, but I don't remember. And that usually takes me a little bit, and then most often I'll remember. Oh, I think this is the episode where this happens, but it takes a little bit.
Well, reading's different because, like, look at the
definitely.
sheer amount of Star Wars content, like all the comics and
The volume,
like, holy smokes, like I forgot this thing happened, So for me, it's always enjoyable. I reread couple of years ago, Heir to the Empire trilogy, had been a long time. It's like, oh yeah, that specific thing. I forgot about it. The X-Wing novels, there are 7 or 8 of them, depending if you count that last one or not. And it's like, oh yeah, that little event and that funny line, I forgot about it. So it's not as if the stuff goes away and you have to give up your favorite franchise. It's just all the new stuff coming out. Until and unless it ever gets better and they correct course, and actually correct course, and it really is a win, then just pay attention to the old stuff or explore new stuff you've never seen before. Like, oh, I've never checked out this franchise or this medium. Because where we are going with this earlier in the stream is, who is it? Ayn Rand that said, politics are downstream from culture. The first thing the collectivists want to do is take over your culture. Cultural subversion, right? And then that drives people into the voting booth to vote a certain way. And then all of a sudden, 20 years later, you've lost not only your culture, but your whole damn country. And that's how every revolution has happened. And I know you guys haven't seen this, probably a lot of you, but this video only has like 180 views, but it explains all this. And ironically, it's my second Gina Carano video where I explain like groupthink and why collectivism has to group people together and get rid of individuality. Go watch that video. Go back and look at my old videos on OAP, and it's Gina Carano and cancel culture, what it really means. And it breaks all that down, like how these revolutions happen. And it all boils down to people just, they're not exercising their right to say no and say, I'm not going to put up with it. They just go with the flow and they don't realize what's happening.
Yeah, you can bitch on YouTube and Twitter all day long, but in the end, you're going to have to start voting with your wallet, people.
Yeah.
That's ultimately what it comes down to. And, when these people take over these industries, or the few companies that control the industries, like, for example, Hollywood or video games, you got to walk away.
Yep.
You got to walk away. And that doesn't mean you're abandoning the culture. It's like you're not supporting it, but like you can still stay attuned to what they're doing and discuss it and mock it as it should be mocked.
Well, what is Ripa call it, like the alternate economy or whatever the heck he calls it?
That is absolutely becoming a thing. Ironically, that's one of the things Daily
What's
Wire's
the term he uses for it? It's
I don't know what he uses for it, but yeah.
It's something along those lines.
Parallel economy or something like that.
Something like that. So that's exactly what it is.
Various things. Like you gotta, like Daily Wire's like, okay, we don't, this advertising company called us bad people, so we're gonna make our own razors, and we're gonna just compete with them direct. Like, fuck you guys. Like, I'm not gonna buy Jeremy's razors, but like, I like the idea of it. Like,
I've heard they're not good. I've read reviews. By the way,
but is Gillette
I'm going to
good?
tweet later about razors. Because I took a picture, and until you just said that, I forgot I was going to make a tweet on razors about a week ago.
I'm not in the market for one. I'm a bearded bro, so I just need a beard trimmer.
Clean shaved. Is it close enough? So, but here's the thing.
I gotta hide my 17 chins.
Yeah. With the parallel economy, right? The problem is, and I talked about this sometime in the last month, there's not like enough of it, right? Because hey, Razorfist can come out with Ghost of the Badlands. Great. When's the next one? Oh, another year. We've got to find a way to scale this up. And let's say something does get made into a TV show. That's what we need. Somebody with the money that can fund, like, hey, we're going to start out making animated stuff. And then, we can segue into like live action. It doesn't have to be super high budget stuff, but we have to have more because, oh, yay, you know, I got the graphic novel, whoever it could be. It could be EVS. It could be ISOM. You read it like in one sitting and it's like, okay, I'm done. Like, what now? It's another 8 months to a year, or maybe 4 years until the next,
Yeah, in the case
until
of
the
like
next
Cyberpunk.
issue. Yeah, exactly. So we've got to find a way to scale it up and to increase the frequency. Does that mean more creators? Maybe, but how many, you know, for lack of a better term, base creators are there that are actually good? You know, that can crank stuff out. That's
And they're
where
gonna
it's going to
like,
run into
you know, create
problems.
good, compelling characters and be able to develop a story over a long period of time.
Well,
You know,
I
it's
read
not easy.
I read Razor, and what's the guy's name that's doing his art?
I have no
It's
idea.
like a Greek name. I can't think of what it is. But I read the latest update and I'm like, it was like 5 paragraphs long, and I'm like, that's really deep stuff, and it goes into it and it draws you in. So point is, we need a lot more people like that. And I thought his was pretty reasonably priced. By the way, I'm toying around with the idea of buying every member of my channel like a digital copy, just to show my commitment to, you know, the Iron Age and all that stuff. I'm toying around with that idea to where every member of the channel, like, I'm going to buy you a digital copy. I'm not going to buy you a physical one because that would get too expensive, just to show that, hey, we're supporting it. And plus, if you guys like it, then start supporting some other Iron Age people, including me when I eventually get there, which I really want to. Oh, and then before I answer Timon's question, Corey Cochran says all the DVDs and Blu-rays are secondhand for the last 7 years. That's awesome. I love those secondhand DVD places, but I do hope that you have a DVD player that you can play them on.
Yes, that's important. That's an important aspect of buying physical.
Yeah.
To that, like Master and Commander, which is, you know, that we're going to do a stream on that. I never seen the movie. I don't own it. And I'm like, oh, we're going to do this stream this month. I should probably find a way to get a copy. So then I looked it up. It's like, oh, shit, it was made by Fox, which means it's now produced by Disney. So I'm not going to rent it. I'm not gonna go buy it new. I went to eBay and picked it up, and that kind of gets into media. Timon, what you should do is
I haven't read his question yet.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Read the question.
Timon from Brazil says, Tim, question. Lots of old movies and series now belong to Disney and other shit companies. Lots of people can't buy old stuff on eBay because of taxes plus shipping. Not everyone lives in the U.S.
Timon, do your countrymen a favor and start a used DVD Blu-ray import business, where you can import them in bulk. Not going to save you on the stupid taxes, but the shipping, you'll get some money. I don't know what eBay Brazil looks like, so I don't have a good answer otherwise. And sometimes it might mean like you know, you don't get to buy everything you necessarily want.
Yeah, and because,
or you got to make the choice, and you got to make the conscious choice to be like, I realize that, like, I really want this thing. I know where the money's going. Be conscious of it.
Yeah, and back in the 90s, before DVD sets were a thing, there were a lot of shows that it's like, man, I'd love to sit down and watch this series again, from the 80s. I think we really got spoiled even before streaming was a thing. There was like on demand, like your cable company would have like, hey, on demand, you can watch this season for the next month, and then we're going to take it off and stuff like that. We got spoiled with that. But if you think back to the 90s, you'd have to go to Suncoast in the mall. Hey, I want to order this thing, and it takes 3 weeks
one
to
season,
come in.
that'll be $119.
Yeah, exactly. And then season sets became like a really heavy thing, I'd say in 2002 or so. Walmart has them, and then suddenly they go from $80 to like $15 a season. So point is, if we could go without this stuff in the 90s and maybe have to wait longer, it's just the way it is. So if you truly want to make a difference, if that's why you're asking the question, then go without and watch whatever else you can without giving them the money. Because yeah, not everyone lives in the US, but you have other methods of entertainment that you can buy there, right? Like whatever it is, without having the money go to them. So if you're truly interested in not sending the money to the woke companies, then do without the stuff you can't get by that means, at least right away. It could be a deal where, you know, hey, I'm going on vacation somewhere and I'm going to make a conscious effort while I'm there to stock up on stuff. I do that a lot when I go out of state. Whenever I went to Canada, I did a bunch of stuff, and that was 15 years ago, but I stocked up on some stuff, put it in my bag, and flew home. Stuff that was cheaper up there. So there's answers to that. It's just, unfortunately, it could be, you know, sometimes you have to go without it for a little while. So that's my answer to that. Anything else to add, Greg?
No, that about covers it. Like, yeah, maybe maybe you have somebody that lives in the States and you got a list of movies and be like, hey, look out for these and I'll pay you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Stizo, remember Columbia House? Yeah, we talked about that a few weeks ago. And I thought it was a good deal because I remember getting like 13 CDs one time, and I actually followed the policy, and I only wound up paying like $30. I had to buy 2 at regular price, and I got all the rest. I thought it was a pretty cool deal as long as you followed up and stuff, because otherwise they keep sending you that shit.
Yep.
And you'd have to cancel it. Melvin is George Lucas. That'd be interesting if he takes the mask off one day. There's something satisfying about the sound of a lighter emitting that flame.
Isn't it?
There it is. I hear that sound a lot. It's always a dreamer with a heart of gold, says E. Clay Thomason. No, so we talked about a lot of stuff tonight. We kind of went off topic at the very beginning to give our thoughts on some of the communications being shared on social media by certain parties about wins and false hope and stuff like that. We talked about Matt Walsh and culture, and then we talked about the real meaning of the Second Amendment. I mean, we should probably do a different Bill of Rights every stream. Like, let's back up and do the First Amendment. What does it really mean next time? But at the end of the day, I believe in the unfettered right to have any kind of weapon you want, because we know the government does. So, why can't we have it? I don't trust them. Does anyone trust them? No. Here's what I do trust. I think that people in the military are trained to the point where, hey, you're defending your country and its people. I would have to think that a majority of them, if ordered to attack its own citizens within the borders, they wouldn't do it. Now,
I would sincerely hope.
Yeah, but I think differently. I think police, law enforcement, I think it's the opposite. I think they're trained to say every single citizen is a potential lawbreaker, and you need to treat them with suspicion and as a potential source of revenue. So I don't trust the police the way that I do members of the military. That's just my view, and you guys know I've mentioned it more than once. And my personal experiences as well on the West Coast and where I live now, it's the exact same. I just have not enjoyed that, and I'm not someone that can claim, hey, I'm driving while a certain color. It's just because that's the way that people in those positions are. I think it's it's conducive to power going to your head when you have a badge and a gun. So anyway, we've been going 2 hours, 15 minutes. Great crowd tonight, guys. Thanks for being here. The regular crowd and some new people. Steezo showed up from Knights of Melvin. Preston was here. Darth Spampton from the Knights of Melvin. We had our friend OG Star Wars, our friend Blake, our friend Timon. Melissa was here. Lots of great people. Corey was here. So we'll probably do this again in a month because we're trying to rotate. Coming up next on Wednesday night. What is next? It's the 17th. If there is Star Trek news, we may do Off the Treks. If not, we may do this again. It just depends what's happening that week. But we do know
debt ceiling that we could talk about. That's always a fun topic.
Yeah. We'd have to explain that because a lot of people, I don't think they understand the concept of it, just based on my everyday conversations. But the 31st, I believe it is, right? We do know on Wednesday night, that's when we'll be doing the Master and Commander watch. Not watch, discussion. We decided not to do the watch because watches are like this. Oh, wow, that thing happened. You know, stuff like that. So everyone's going to watch it, and then you guys can watch it, and then you can come watch us, and we'll have like screen caps. So we're going to go, oh, yeah, that scene. Let me explain what was going on there because there's historical stuff going on, character stuff going on, all that. And it'll give you a higher appreciation for the movie because I know quite a bit about the movie and the source material. It'll be me, Greg, first-time watcher Greg. It'll be Rhetorical Thrill, not a first-time watcher because she went and watched it and made a video that got lots of views before we had the stream. And then Blake, who has also seen it. So it will be good. And that'll be the 31st. So 17th and 24th up in the air. But, you know, plan is to stream every Wednesday night. And then, of course, Friday night, we're back for the spacing. We're going to talk about Mark Hamill's latest antics and look at it fairly. And then we're going to look at Richard Dreyfuss, we alluded to earlier. And is he really based or not? And then I'm going to grab that Empire magazine and we're going to expose everything that Disney's doing and proving people wrong that have been saying stuff for almost 5 years now. Grifters. But hey, don't hate the player, hate the game. If somebody's going to buy into that, then I keep saying it too. But I'm not dishonest enough to make people believe something that's not true. I'm not good at that. Again, earlier in the stream, we pursue the truth here. Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. Oath is to the Constitution, America, and our citizens, not the government. I think it's different for law enforcement. Anyway, I've been rambling.
I think it's a different mentality that wants you to go, you know, that pulls you into military service versus law enforcement.
Good way of putting it. Yeah, good way of putting it.
Although there is overlap, of course.
Oh yeah, after they get out, and a lot of times it doesn't work out. You know, they try it and it's not for them. So, anyways, good stream, had fun, and we'll see you guys Friday night on the spacing, 10:05 Central Time, 10:05 p.m. Central Time. We're gonna have fun there. We'll have a great night, everyone. Greg, thanks for being here as always, and
My pleasure.
thanks to OG Star Wars for the wonderful super chat. And we'll see you Friday night. Later.
Is that legal?
I will make it legal.
Where do you get this bureaucratic bull?
You have all the character references of a politician.
Intelligence has nothing to do with politics.
This president is not above the law.
If the dirty air don't get you, the politicians will.
The last remnants of the old republic have been swept away.
These orders have forced us to declare independence.